Hey, this is Trey. If you've listened to Us and Them over the past 3 years, you'll know we've given a good amount of attention to the case of James Means, a 15-year-old kid who was shot and killed in Charleston, West Virginia back in 2016. The man who shot him was William Pulliam, who was 62 years old at the time. The story made national headlines, mostly because of what Pulliam, a white man, said after he was arrested and confessed to shooting the African-American teen. He told the arresting officer, "The way I look at it, that's another piece of trash off the streets." There have been many twists and turns to Pulliam's prosecution. The trial was delayed for a long period of time after Pulliam's attorneys sought to have his mental competency evaluated. For a long period of time, Pulliam was determined to be mentally incompetent to assist in his defense. Eventually, his competence was restored, and a hearing was scheduled for this past August. After all the delays, when the trial was set to begin, there was yet another surprise twist. Pulliam agreed to plead guilty to second-degree murder. Then, about a week later, he sent a note to the judge saying that he'd agreed to the plea under duress and he wanted to revoke it. Then, about a month later, he sent another note to the judge saying that he wanted to abide by his original plea agreement. Since then, Pulliam has awaited sentencing. But that would happen only after an outcome to federal charges for illegal firearms possession. You see, the gun that he shot James Means with, Pulliam wasn't even supposed to own. So, the other day, October 3rd, I learned the latest and perhaps final chapter to this sad story. William Pulliam is dead. County prosecutors told Faye Adkins, James Means' mother, that Pulliam hung himself while in custody at the Carter County Detention Center in Grayson, Kentucky. U.S. Marshal Service Deputy Fred Lamy confirmed the death, but he wouldn't confirm it was a suicide until after there was an autopsy. Since Pulliam was incarcerated in Kentucky, Kentucky State Police are investigating his death. According to a local news report, inmates at the Carter County Detention Center found Pulliam unresponsive in his cell. They alerted jail staff who tried to revive him. Paramedics also tried to revive him but were unsuccessful. The news report says no foul play is suspected at this time. Pulliam's death means there will not be a sentencing hearing. Faye Atkins says she regrets that she now doesn't have the opportunity to talk to Pulliam directly. She told me, "He took away my son. He took away a brother, a grandson, a cousin, a friend." And she said she'd like to ask Pulliam, "Why did you feel that you could take his life away?" She wanted Pulliam to pay for what he'd done to her son. And she told me that she didn't want to judge Pulliam, but that she believed he was going to go to hell for everything that he'd done, and that God has his own ways of working. If this is the first time you've heard Us and Them or heard about the story of James Means and William Pulliam, and you'd like to get a better understanding of the details, I suggest you go back and hear our original award-winning episode, Killing James Means, or our follow-up episode, Waiting for Justice. A lot of people have asked me why we've given so much attention to this story. I guess when the story broke, and when we heard Pulliam's piece of trash comment, we were outraged. And we heard outrage from people locally and around the nation. Multiple news crews came to West Virginia to report out this story. But at some point, all of the national attention seemed to fade away. And when it did, the Means family still had a lot of grief to process. We wondered if there were any lessons to be learned from this story. And if there were, it stood to reason that somebody needed to be around to report them. And for a show that's called Us and Them, we thought there might be an opportunity to gain a deeper understanding about how people from different races and socioeconomic backgrounds go through an experience like this. We felt certain that there would be a disconnect to how people on either side of this us and them divide experience the justice system. But mostly, we just felt it seemed worthwhile to see this story all the way to the end. And even though the end of this story feels kind of flat and sad and with no real sense of justice coming to completion, there are times when justice is messy and even the end feels unfair and, well, unjust. But now, for both James Means and William Pulliam, there is an end. And I hope the Means family can find their own peace. Somehow.
Music lifts us up and brings us together, even when we can't get together in person. Mountain Stage brings you live performances on the air, online, and in our podcast. They remind you how it feels to be in a live audience listening to live music. This is Larry Gross, host of Mountain Stage. Find a link to our stations and our podcast online at mountainstage.org.
You've been listening to Us and Them. Our team for this update is me, Trey Kay, and Kate Smith. We had help from West Virginia Public Broadcasting's Dave Mistich. Special thanks to my friend and colleague Lacey Pearson of the Charleston Gazette-Mail. Michael Lipton and Tristan Lozow wrote and performed the Us and Them show music. Mark Lerner designed our logo. The wonderful people at PRX and West Virginia Public Broadcasting make Us and Them possible. So do grants from the CRC Foundation and the Daywood Foundation. Us and Them was originally developed with assistance from the Mentorship Program at AIR, the Association of Independents in Radio. We'll see you next time on Us and Them.
Support for this podcast comes from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
From PRX.